This world that has been so deeply manipulated by central banks tells us that the system is fundamentally broken. At some point, there will be either a currency meltdown or a complete loss of faith in fiat currencies. It's imperative that you have a hedge against a systemic breakdown of the global financial system. Crypto provides that. It's an alternative financial system that you can actually own a piece of. I first got exposed to Bitcoin in 2013. Bitcoin was the first time that people could send and receive value that wasn't controlled by a third party. A non-dilutive financial system that operates independent of and outside of any system that we have created.
A lot of people have watched Bitcoin over the last few years and they saw the massive run up and then this crash afterwards. People got burned in this before.
Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general is wildly volatile, but that volatility is actually a huge benefit for individual investors. I think we're going to see a bigger rally moving forward than we saw in 2017. A handful of these cryptos could see their market caps explode to $10 billion or more. And I actually think you can make $5 million with a $500 investment. You got a shot here at moving the needle in your financial life in a way that you'll never ever see again.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is...
At London Real, we've been talking about cryptocurrency since 2013. So I was super excited when my good friend Teeka Tiwari decided to come in and talk about a special cryptocurrency investment event. You see, right now, over 100 billionaires and wealthy investors are in a buying frenzy, preparing for a rare crypto market phenomenon 100% guaranteed to happen. The last time this occurred was in 2016, and you could have turned $500 into as much as $5 million in only 10 months' time. And we won't see this happen again until 2024. And that's why, for you as a London Real viewer, I've managed to secure you a spot to this special cryptocurrency event called 5 Coins to $5 million. And if you click on the link below or go to londonreal.tv/crypto, you can lock in your spot because the time to act is now. Teeka Tiwari was voted the #1 most trusted expert in cryptocurrency by an independent poll of 130,000 analysts. And on this special training, he's going to show you the top 5 coins to invest in that again could turn that $500 into $5 million. Super excited to see you at this event. Teeka is one of the best in the business. And now I leave you for this incredible episode to go deeper into crypto. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Teeka Tiwari, the former Wall Street trader turned cryptocurrency guru. At age 16, you moved from England to New York City with just $150 in your pocket, and 2 years later, you became the youngest employee at the Wall Street investment bank Lehman Brothers. Over the course of your career, you made millions of dollars and went on to launch a successful hedge fund. Today, you educate people on how to invest their money in order to achieve financial prosperity. Teeka, welcome back to London Real.
Thank you, Brian. It's wonderful to be back.
Great to have you here today. And look, I really want to go deep into the cryptocurrency space because it's something I've been talking about maybe at London Real for about 5 years, but we really haven't had too many experts in here. And I know from an investing side, we've never had anybody like you. So I really want to talk about that today. We've actually just recorded a really interesting video that I'm not going to release on YouTube that is about a special event that's coming up that only happens every 4 years that's really going to affect the crypto space in a big way. So if people want to watch that, there's a link below, or they can go to londonreal.tv/crypto to watch that. Again, that won't be on YouTube. But today, I wanted maybe just to talk about your whole career with crypto and what's going on now that makes this one of the most exciting times in the market. So,
Yeah, I'd love to.
looking forward to that. Before we get started, for people that haven't watched your previous episode, tell me a little bit about how you actually got into the game of finance. Because we're both former Wall Street guys, but you took a different route because you were born in this country.
Right.
Even though you seem like an American.
Yes, even though I don't have an English accent anymore. So I was born in the UK, in Hackney, not too far from here.
Very close.
Grew up in Harrow. And then when I was 16, I grew up in the foster care system. And then when I was 16, I pretty much aged out of the foster care system. And so I had $150 and the clothes that I was wearing. And I flew to New York. And I slept on a relative's couch for 6 months, started working odd jobs, working at restaurants.
And why New York? Why'd you want to go there?
Okay, so let's bring it back. So when I was 12 years old, there was a show on television this was in the 1980s, talking about this new class of people in the city called yuppies, right? Nobody had ever heard that term before. And a yuppie was a young urban professional. And there were all these young kids making a fortune on the equivalent of Wall Street in the city. And the idea that you could use your brain to make money from moving bits of paper, saying, okay, the paper representing this company is going to go up in value, and you'd make that bet and you could make money from that. That whole concept just blew my mind, because as a kid, the only way I thought you could make money was trading your hours, for dollars, essentially, for pounds. And I remember thinking at 12 years old, I'm going to go work on Wall Street. I was always fascinated by the United States. And I always felt like an American born in the wrong country. It's very strange. I was born in England, raised in England, and raised in foster care with Anglo-Saxon foster parents. I never felt English. I always felt American. And so I had this goal in my mind that I would move to New York and I would work on Wall Street. And it was very real for me. I would cut out pictures and post them on the walls in my room. I created a book of American cars. I would imagine myself walking down these concrete canyons of New York City. I would imagine myself working on Wall Street. It was...
This is some teenager in foster care in England is dreaming of this.
Yes.
That's crazy.
And it was so out to lunch, right? So I remember as a teenager, at school, they said, well, you're going to go get an apprenticeship and work at British Telecom, and you're going to be a telephone repairman, right? And I said, no, I'm going to go work on Wall Street. And they would look at me like I had 5 heads, and they say, well, you don't have the money, you don't have the connections, you don't have the grades, you're not bright enough to go do that. And I remember thinking as a kid, okay, I could buy into their idea of what my future should be, or I can buy into my own. And I made that definitive decision to buy into my own idea. And the key thing was, Brian, I had no idea how I was going to make that a reality. I just knew that was what I wanted. And what I learned from that was, if you can get real clarity about what you want, you'll acquire the skills, develop the skills. Somehow life will bend itself to get you on the road to where you want to go. And it sounds metaphysical and crazy. I don't have any explanation for it. But all I know is that 1 month after my 18th birthday, I was working in an office selling typewriter supplies over the telephone. And I met a guy there called Kevin Wong. And back then, if you'd listen to me for more than 5 minutes, I would tell you, I wanted to be a broker, I want to be a broker, I want to work on Wall Street. And I can't tell you, hundreds of times I had told this story that I want to work on Wall Street. And I met this guy, Kevin Wong.
In New York City.
In New York City.
Right.
And he says, well, you know what? I know the guy that hires people over at Lehman Brothers. I'll give him a call and you can go visit him. right? So, again, this is the universe was bending itself in the direction of my vision of what I wanted, right? I didn't go unplanned to meet Kevin Wong. I had no idea who Kevin Wong was.
Right.
But
you were very clear on your vision, and that
clear.
helped.
Yes.
You literally had visualized it.
Yes. I was clear on my vision. I talked about it. I was open to receiving whatever the universe was going to show me as a way to get there. And I had that faith. Right? But it wasn't just blind faith. I was working in the direction of that faith. I was reading books on Wall Street. I was reading the Wall Street Journal. I was learning all I could about that realm. And I was attempting to develop myself too by reading books like Think and Grow Rich and just attempting to improve myself. And so all of that came together, and I went to this interview at Lehman Brothers at 55 Water Street back in 1989. This was in February, about 1 month after my 18th birthday. And I've told you the story before, how I walked in there just really dressed like a complete schlub, because I just didn't know any better, and I didn't have money to dress up. And I sat down with the hiring manager, this guy called Frank, and Frank was a sweet guy, and he said, look, you seem like a nice kid. This is really not for you. And I said to Frank, look, that didn't even register to me when he said this is not for you, just to know how clear that I wanted this. And I just said to him, look, Frank, I'll work for free. I'll do anything here, whatever you want me to do. Sweep the floors, clean the windows. I just want a shot. And Frank gave me a shot. And that was it, And then from there, my career on Wall Street just flourished.
And it got really big really fast. So
yes.
maybe you were grabbing people's lunches for months, but then pretty soon you had your own account, your own clients, and you were making.
I was a VP by the time I was 20. Yeah.
And making a lot of money.
And making a lot of money.
Wow.
And making a lot of money. And it was remarkable how I went from making nothing, just barely subsisting, to making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and then ultimately millions of dollars a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you've basically been watching the markets now for 30 years.
Correct.
So you've seen, obviously, stocks, you've seen derivatives kind of really evolve, credit derivatives, all these different commodities. I mean, you really have seen everything in the past 30 years.
The amount of change that we've seen on the investment front has been beyond anything anybody has seen in any period before this one.
Right, internet stock trading, the access of information to the Main Street investor. A lot of that has changed, but some things still haven't changed. And I know, because I know you personally, you travel around the world and meet with some strange people in strange locations. And you have the inside ear on crypto, and you have been doing this for 3 years now, 4 years.
Yeah.
And we all know from being on Wall Street it's the inside information that really triggers what happens.
Correct.
And usually the newspapers, and by the time it gets out to the real investor, it's some version that the banks want them to know, and they're the last to know.
That's right.
Tell me a bit about that information, and then maybe tell me about your journey with crypto.
Yeah, so very early on in the crypto, well, let me bring it back even further. When I first discovered, let's say Bitcoin, which was the first crypto, I was incredibly skeptical.
What year was this?
So I first got exposed to Bitcoin in 2013.
Okay.
And I looked at it, and to me, this was magic internet money. This was a bunch of nerds coming together, trying to create value out of thin air. To me, it had the air of a Ponzi scheme. Now, I didn't do a deep dive on Bitcoin, right? It was a very superficial analysis. And then I saw Bitcoin crash from 1,200 down to 200, and I was like, well, there's Bitcoin, it's done. This is a Ponzi scheme, and it's over. What got me to revisit Bitcoin was that through all my years on Wall Street, I've seen Ponzi schemes and I've seen frauds.
Right, like Bernie Madoff and
Correct.
that, or Enron and
Yes.
these kinds of things, right?
Yeah, or penny stocks that had been run up to these huge prices and then collapsed. So every time you see a fraud or a Ponzi scheme, when it collapses, it goes to zero. Doesn't still have a value in the hundreds of millions of dollars. It goes to zero. So what made me take a look at Bitcoin again was that even after it crashed, it didn't go to zero. It had a value that was still in the billions. And I said, this is really weird, because you've got maximum negative news, you've got maximum selling that's taken place, and there's still a cadre of people that believe in this asset to the tune of multiple billions of dollars. I said, I got to do a deeper dive. So I did. So I read the white paper, the Bitcoin white paper. I started going to Bitcoin events. And there was this one particular speech that I heard given by Brock Pierce in 2016 on Bitcoin at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas that just turned me around on Bitcoin. So what I finally understood was that Bitcoin, and through the use of the blockchain, was the first time that people could have value, could send and receive value that wasn't controlled by a third party, right? So never in the history of human commerce have we ever been able to transact value across a network, across each other, without having a bank or an intermediary or some type of person there. So when I saw that and fully understood that, I realized, wow, this is massively important. Here we have this huge global payment network that doesn't require a trusted third party, right? Just that by itself is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, right? Just that alone, that one feature set of Bitcoin. Then we have this other feature set of Bitcoin, this unit of value that can't be diluted. It's on a set schedule of how many will ever be existed and how many will ever come out. So now we have another avenue of value, right? Some people call it money, some people call it digital gold, some people call it a collectible. I think the name that we put on it is less important than realizing that it's a unit of value that can't be diluted.
Explain that dilution maybe a little bit more to people, because when people think about, say, Apple stock, can that be diluted? Or U.S. government bonds, can that be diluted? Or the gold market, can that be diluted? And how is that done?
Okay, so with the shares of a company can always issue more shares and dilute the ownership. If you have 100 shares of stock and you own one share, you own 1% of the stock. If they issue another 100 shares, you now have 0.5% of the stock.
Yeah, I understood that in the dot-com boom because I had shares, and as soon as they issued more, I had now less than half of the company.
Right.
Now you hope the company's growing and then you'll make money, but that's a big thing people don't understand. So, okay, with stocks, you can always be diluted.
And with cash, too. Think about what a dollar bought 100 years ago versus what it buys now. And this is because the money supply has been expanded tremendously.
Printing more money.
Printing more money, which erodes the value of the unit of value, which we call the dollar.
Okay.
Right? So we call it inflation. So we see this occurring in all these different asset classes that can be diluted. Now, with gold, it's a little bit different because it's very difficult to pull gold out of the ground. So the dilution rate on gold is somewhere between 6 to 8% a year, which is how much more gold is added to the gold stock. But gold has traditionally been used as a storehouse of value because you can't just press a button and have more gold.
Right.
You can't just go into a lab and make more gold in a cost-effective way. You got to build a big mine. You've got to go pull it out of the ground. It costs billions of dollars and takes 10, 15, 20 years to get a successful gold mine up
So
and running.
gold's a good example of something that's hard to dilute.
Correct.
But it still can be.
Yes.
And we could just bump into a bunch of gold tomorrow and it could be diluted.
Correct.
All right. But with crypto, you saw something that
with Bitcoin specifically,
that by its very nature can't be diluted.
Can't be diluted. It has a set emission schedule of how many coins will come out over a set period of time. And once all those coins have been emitted, the 21 million, there'll be no more that can come out. I also found out that about a third of the supply, and this is based on anecdotal evidence from talking to some of the biggest holders of Bitcoin in the world back in 2016, that about a third of the supply of Bitcoin has been lost forever, right? Where people have lost keys or they've destroyed keys or not realized how valuable Bitcoin was. They might have had 100,000 Bitcoin when it was trading for 1/1,000,000th of a penny, and then they threw out the hard drive that it was on.
I've lost Bitcoin.
Yeah. So
I've misplaced it.
Right.
It's on some app on some phone that died or
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. I never heard that before. Okay.
Yeah, so that's happened a lot. So there's about 17 million Bitcoin right now in the world. You figure 5 or 6 million of those Bitcoin are gone forever.
Wow.
Right. So you've got this very limited supply of Bitcoin that's out there. So again, we have this asset that's incredibly unique. right? It's never existed before. And you and I were talking about that generally in the past, when we see technology come into the world, it's an iterative process, right? We talked about the train. Well, first you had the wheel, then you had a cart, then you had the wagon, then you had you had the car, and you had the steam engine, and then finally you got electric trains. With Bitcoin, there was no iterative process. You went from not having this asset class one day to all of a sudden having this asset class. And so people have trouble understanding it because they don't have a frame of reference that they can draw on. So it's imagine if we took a prehistoric man from 100,000 years ago to today, showed him a train, and sent him back to his tribe and said, go explain that. What would he say? He'd say, I saw this massive metal snake that gleamed in the sun and chewed up, it was chewed up by the earth and then came back out again. He just wouldn't have the frame of reference to explain what he saw. And this is a problem that we see in Bitcoin and in crypto assets in general. We don't have the nomenclature. We don't have the frame of reference. We don't have the understanding yet of what exactly this asset is and how powerful it is and how it's going to change the world, because it came about so abruptly.
Yeah, and so people always say, is it money? If it's not money, and people get in this weird argument, but they're kind of asking the wrong questions and using the wrong language.
I believe they are.
Okay, and I say the same thing, funny enough, about YouTube. I always tell people all the time, we don't know what this is yet. And people look at me funny and they're like, well, Brian, it's just videos. But we've never seen in the history of human culture a video platform on demand that anyone can upload things. And it's changing human consciousness, the learning rates, everything in a massive scale. And we still don't even know what it is yet or how it's going to affect us.
Correct.
Because we're looking at it as we would look at like a photograph or a movie, when in fact, it's got an extra component that makes it become something that's going to massively shift who we are as human beings. And we're already seeing a little bit of that. And when you talk about crypto, it starts to make me think, okay, this is something exciting that we still can't put a name on, and that probably is why a lot of people are still unsure about it.
Well, they're unsure and they're skeptical, but you got to think of Bitcoin. I think you've got to stop trying to label Bitcoin as one thing, because it's many things. And the other thing to think about is the way that I view Bitcoin as a form of a derivative, right? So the derivative market is the largest market in the world. Notional value of something like $524 trillion. This is massive, 5x all other investments. It's huge.
What I started trading when I got out of MIT and went to Wall Street in 1993, I was trading interest rate derivatives. It's a fascinating market, and it's bigger than anything out there.
Yes, it's massive. So, but I don't see Bitcoin necessarily as a derivative of money, right? I see Bitcoin as a derivative of a system that does not require trust, right? Of a system that offers non-dilutive value. So non-dilutive value does not exist in the traditional investment world. A value system that is not built on trusted third parties outside of Bitcoin and crypto assets does not exist in the world, right? It does not exist. So BTC, for me, as I look at the future valuation model for BTC is not just this unit of value that some people call money, but it's an entire network. It's an ecosystem that I believe people will invest in above and beyond just the value of Bitcoin as let's say, money. It's an alternative financial system that you can actually own a piece of, right? Okay. So a non-dilutive financial system that operates independent of and outside of any system that we have created yet throughout human history.
Explain how that is important and why that's so important, that a bank or a government doesn't have to oversee things. Because those people also charge fees and they're expensive to maintain. How important is it to have something that doesn't require that trust component?
Well, because if you look at every single institution or financial system that's been created, it ultimately collapses through horrible self-interest, right? Or through out of control inflation because central bankers go nuts hitting the print button to create more capital. And it's happening right now. You got $17 trillion of sovereign debt trading at negative yields. Brian, that's insane.
These are these are countries that printed too much money.
Right.
And now their debt is worthless.
Well, no, it's not so much. No, it's not that debt is worthless. It's that people are paying they're paying a government to borrow money from them. So if you look at the German 10-year bond, it's trading, I think, negative 40 basis points. So I give you money and I'm getting less money back after 10 years. So that perversion can only take place when central banks have printed so much money. They're out there buying up all this debt. They've perverted the interest rates to such a point where borrowers are getting paid to borrow money. That's just, if 2 years ago, 4 years ago, I had gone on YouTube and said, oh yeah, $17 trillion worth of debt is going to have a negative yield, people would have been ridiculed. People would have said, that's absolutely nuts, right? So the fact that we're here in this world that has been so deeply manipulated by central banks that they can do that, they can manipulate interest rates that are so far out of whack from reality, tells us that the system is fundamentally broken, and at some point there will be either a currency meltdown or a complete loss of faith in fiat currencies. If you just look through history, fiat currencies just do not survive long term. I mean, the British pound has actually been on an incredible run for over 300 years. But so you need a hedge against that, right? You have to, it's imperative that you have a hedge against a systemic breakdown of the global financial system. And Bitcoin provides that.
Okay. Now, a lot of people have watched Bitcoin over the last few years, and they saw the massive run up and then this crash afterwards, and then this thing called the winter, which actually you had predicted.
Right.
They also saw the emergence of a few other coins like Ethereum and some of these other altcoins that you have your eye on right now that we've just talked about in this separate piece that's available on the link below, londonreal.tv/crypto, where you talk about these 5 altcoins and this big event that only happens every 4 years. So I don't want to get into all that because we've already recorded that piece, but talk to me about this run up we saw in Bitcoin and this kind of winter, because people got burned in this before.
Sure.
So what happened there, and why is the whole space still something people need to look at?
Okay, so just so you know, it's par for the course in this space for Bitcoin to have wild moves. Back in 2011, there was a time when Bitcoin had dropped 94%.
Wow.
Right. So it had gone to $30 all the way down to below 2. So Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general is wildly volatile. Again, it's a brand new asset most people don't understand. Also, it's a very small market. It's about $300, $400 billion big at this point in time, which sounds like a lot of money, but relative to, let's say, the cash on Apple's balance sheet, it's tiny. Relative to traditional financial assets, such as stocks, this, $100 trillion worth of stocks in the world, cryptocurrency is really small. So, but that volatility is actually a huge benefit for individual investors, because you still have that opportunity to parlay a small amount of money into an enormous amount of money.
And you've seen people take $500 and turn it into like 1.6 million.
Well, I personally have taken $1,000 and turned it into as much as $1.6 million. And many of my readers have taken small amounts of money and become multimillionaires from it, right? So that opportunity still exists. And in fact, the video we shot, I'm talking about a particular event that's going to take place that's going to be kind of a super boost for the whole market. I think we're going to have a bigger bull market than we had in 2016, and an even bigger bull market than we had in 2017. But like you said, I'm not going to get into that in this, in what we're talking about today, since we just talked about that in a whole other video. So I want people to understand that the opportunity in cryptocurrency to make enormous sums of money still exists. But I also want to be very clear. Cryptocurrency is risky. Right? Not all cryptos are going to make it. Some are going to go to zero, some are going to turn into zombies. So it's critically important that you never put more money into a cryptocurrency than you're able to risk going to zero, than you're able to risk losing. Now, the beauty of where we are right now, since cryptos are so small, is that you can take small bets, $500, $1,000, and absolutely put yourself in a position to potentially transform your life. And so the key is never risk more than you're willing to lose. And we still have that window of opportunity where you can take those small bets and still do extremely well.
Okay. Now put into perspective the kind of Bitcoin crash that happened, 2017, right?
So 2018. So we crashed a little over 80%, which is definitely very painful. But again, so long as you stay in the asset class, Bitcoin has always rallied back and made new highs. Always rallied back and made new highs. And again, it's always been for a different series of reasons through every crash that Bitcoin has had that has taken it to new highs. For this time around, what I think takes Bitcoin to new highs is really the mainstreaming of Bitcoin ownership. You know, I call it the year of Wall Street greed, where Wall Street they're plugging in their highways of capital into this asset class, getting ready to launch a slew of products that will bring, I think, 465 million new buyers into this space.
Right, and just to put that in perspective, when you and I worked in Wall Street banks, there was always kind of the mainstream products where most of the company worked at. And then there were always the new products the company was looking to say, okay, what's the future of the bank?
Right.
Because the margins get squeezed on traditional bonds and stocks and all that, but the big margins are in the new products.
Correct.
So when I started on Wall Street in 93, I started in derivatives at Bankers Trust, and we had big, fat cap margins.
Right.
I mean, we were ripping sometimes $5-10 million out of a single trade.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. But over time, that all dropped and it became very commoditized.
Yeah.
But they were always looking, is it emerging markets? Is it this? Is it that? And when Wall Street gets their eyes on something that can potentially change the game, they see fees, margins, and spreads. And when
Yes.
they see that, that's potentially when this whole thing's going to kick off, right?
Correct, and that's the bet that I'm making, right? I'm betting on Wall Street greed. Now, there'll be many people that watch this and say, oh, and lamenting the fact that Wall Street's coming in and commoditizing and securitizing this asset class that they think they have no business being in. I will say that fundamentally, I agree with those sentiments, but I would be doing my readers a disservice by blinding myself to the fact that this is happening. These people are coming into this space. And it is my job as a researcher and writer in this space to help my readers, put them in a position to make the most amount of money possible and not blind myself to reality. And the reality is that the bankers have done the math. They see the enormous margins that are on the trade execution side of this, on the exchange side of this business, and they are coming in en masse to bring their clients into this space. And so as they connect to this space, what you'll see is a proliferation of financial products that make it easy to buy cryptocurrency. Now, does this violate all the reasons that were behind the creation of Bitcoin and behind the creation of these altcoins? Yes. It absolutely does. It will bring in centralization, it will bring in concentration, all these things that are very negative long-term to the asset class. But what it will also do is bring in a flood of capital that will make the prices of these coins soar to levels that we have never seen before. And that is an opportunity as an investor that you must take advantage of, because you'll never have that opportunity again. How often does a brand new asset class get invented, Brian? It's very rare.
Very rare.
Very, very rare.
Yeah.
But if you're in early, the opportunity to make life-changing wealth is unlike anything you'll ever see. And so this, to me, is the opportunity in front of everybody today. And I almost feel, I just feel compelled to let as many people know as possible, hey, you've got to take advantage of this opportunity. Whether you do it through me and through my work or through your own, doesn't really matter. But you got a shot here at moving the needle on your life, on your financial life in a way that you'll never ever see again.
Yeah, I think 10 years from now, we'll look back at this moment and think, how come this wasn't so obvious to everybody that this was an inflection point in crypto where it went from being a small asset class to just being this massive asset class?
Correct.
And probably never again will you have these opportunities to invest $500 or $1,000 and take them up into the millions.
And take them up into the millions.
Because by then there'll be more mature instruments, they'll be developed.
Right.
And funny enough, if you look at the old Bitcoin prices, I mean, they used to be, pennies,
Yeah.
right? And then no one ever thought they would be getting up to $10,000, $20,000. I mean, people used to give them away,
Correct.
buy pizzas with them.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it happened. And so this is an exciting time. And again, we go deeper into this big event that happens every 4 years and these 5 altcoins in this piece that we just filmed. So there's a link below, or they can go to londonreal.tv/crypto to learn more about that.
Yep. And I actually think you can make $5 million from those 5 coins with a $500 investment.
Wow.
Yeah.
$500 investment, 5 coins, $5 million.
Correct.
Okay, and this is one of the few times in history you think this is going to happen.
Yes, and it's specifically because of this very rare event that's taking place that will supercharge the entire market.
Yeah. No, it's really exciting. You had me excited about when we talked about this. So again, there's a link below. Go check this out at londonreal.tv/crypto. One of the things I found really interesting that you said is that I think currently there's only about 35 million people that have invested in crypto.
Correct.
Whereas there's 500 million people, about 500 million people in the world that invest in the stock market. And if you can get all of those people to get access to the crypto markets, you can just see that's like a 15 times increase in investors, which could just mean more capital, more interest, bigger market caps.
Yeah, and so I want to bring this back to the altcoins, because the altcoins have been, the altcoin is any coin other than Bitcoin, and they've been underperforming Bitcoin.
And one of the first altcoins was Ethereum, and you were one of the first people to talk about that, right?
I was. It actually wasn't one of the first altcoins. There were others, but we can talk. We'll talk about Ethereum. So when I saw Ethereum launch, that's when I started doing a deep dive with insiders, and I started connecting with the people that actually put Ethereum together. And
Why are insiders important? Just for people that maybe haven't been in the industry, what does an insider tell you that, say, a white paper won't, or a website chat room won't tell you,
So what an insider does, what I like to do, I'm very good at reading people, right? I can tell if somebody is full of crap or not very quickly.
In person,
right? Which is a lot harder to do just watching a video. So I observe body language. I'll ask people extremely difficult, very direct questions. And if they hesitate or just don't answer or will shift the conversation, it just tells me a lot about, the underlying project. And so I also want to find out just how good are they technically, right? And I'm no programmer, but I know a lot of excellent programmers. And so I'll introduce, let's say, somebody that I've met, somebody that I know is a very smart person technically, and get their read. And so the reason why I talk to these insiders, and the insight that they give me is on what's coming up in the code, just how really smart they are, how smart their team is, and who is going to be using the product. So I'll give you a prime example with Ethereum. With Ethereum, I started talking to people at different banks, and I started talking to some of the founders of Ethereum, and what I found out is that all the major banks were spinning up versions of Ethereum and testing Ethereum. They were building proof of concepts on Ethereum. Another industry insider that I spoke to was telling me anecdotally that she was at a hackathon event, and 85% of the programmers there were working on Ethereum, not Bitcoin. This is when Ethereum was at $6-7. And I said, look, you've got the smartest people in the world are choosing to build on Ethereum. You've got all the major banks are doing proof of concepts on Ethereum. I've spoke to one of the founders of Ethereum. It was $7. He said, listen, this is going to be $100 in under a year. And he explained to me why. And I said, okay, this is real. So I started doing, again, another deep dive, and then I actually wrote a report on Ethereum, and I put together a pricing model of why I thought Ethereum would go from $7 to around $350. And at the time, that was a 12 billion, I was saying that Ethereum was going to have more than a $30 billion market cap, when the market cap for the whole space was sub 12 billion, right? This was insane. And I put it in print and widely distributed this report. And people said, you know, you're insane, you're a hype man, you're a shill, worse words that I can't use here.
But you've never been afraid to say your opinion when you believe in something.
No, if I believe it, I'm going to give you my real unvarnished opinion. I just don't care what other people think or say, you know, because it's easy to be a critic, right? It doesn't take any talent to be a critic. It takes real work to think through an idea and see the world differently from everybody else, articulate it, and then put your reputation on the line and go popularize it, right? That's work. It's not easy to do. And you have to be willing to be unpopular, which most people aren't willing to take that social risk. I was always a pariah growing up, so it didn't really bother me. So what happens? So Ethereum goes from $7 to as high as $1,440 a coin.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So it was life-changing gains for my readers that took the step and bought in at $7. Absolutely life-changing gains. And then we had other coins like NEO that I recommended at 12 cents that I said was going to be a multi-billion-dollar coin. When I recommended it, it had a $5 million market cap and more than $5 million in cash. And that went to about $200 from 12.5 cents.
Wow. So,
you know, those coins exist. I have a good track record of unearthing them. And I think we're entering another opportunity, another time where that type of opportunity exists. And I'm really excited by it.
Now, there was the winter that we saw as well in 2017. And you...
No, 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
You predicted that as well. A month before, you kind of told your readers about that.
I said, listen, the market's going crazy. It's going nuts. Let's take some profits, which we did. I said, this can't last forever. We're definitely going to have a pullback coming up.
Right. So you have a good feel for what's going on up and down in these markets. And right now, this feels ripe. There's this event coming up, and you're looking at these altcoins, which again have these small market caps that can potentially go and skyrocket. And on this video we just recorded, this private video, we were saying that you and I, as former Wall Street guys, never ever seen assets that could go up.
Oh yeah, from $5 million to $10 billion. We've never seen that. No. You'd have to be an early insider in Microsoft to see that type of gain.
Yeah, that's like a 2,000 time gain, which is like it's just a massive gain. It's hard to even explain how big that is in a percentage term.
Correct.
It's just it's like 200,000% or whatever it is. I don't know.
But that's how you take $500 and turn it into $1 million, right? That opportunity exists right now in cryptocurrency, and there'll be people watching this violently disagreeing with me, and you know, you can have your opinion, and that's perfectly fine, but you will look back on this period of time and people will hit their heads against the wall thinking, how did I miss this? How did I not see this happening, right? How did I not see this? To me, it's just so obvious, right? We're going to go from a tiny market to a massive market. A measure of that value that currently circulates in the traditional equity world will come into cryptocurrency, and it will be in the trillions of dollars.
I think one of the reasons that probably this is a great time to buy is that a lot of people were burned on Bitcoin a year and a half ago, whenever that was, and that they'll be a little hesitant, which means for the people that actually do go in, there's just more opportunity for them.
There will be, but let me be very clear. These assets are going to be wildly volatile. When I recommended Ethereum at 7, I had a buy up to price of $20 originally, and I moved the buy up to frequently. But there were multiple times when I was down 80 to 85% on Ethereum, on Monero, on NEO, right? Huge drawdowns. And I said, look, yeah, I know it sucks. It's uncomfortable. Don't worry about it. You put a trivial amount of money in, leave it alone. The asset class will go up and hit new highs. Okay, so understand that as Dan Pena says, what does he say? The pay price to action, right? The pay price to action here is the volatility. You got to deal with it, and the way you mitigate the volatility is by using small positions.
Right.
But the volatility is what is going to allow you to transform a tiny amount of money into an enormous amount of money.
Right, and that's what you said, only invest something that you can afford to lose.
Correct.
And invest the small amount of money, like $500 in these 5 coins in order to get 5 million.
Correct.
We're talking about.
Yes.
Talk to me about some of the other things happening in crypto right now that also might have implications for some of this. We've seen Facebook jump in with the Libra. There's this Lightning Network. I mean, I guess when you see these things, this all contributes to your thesis that this is becoming more mainstream, which is just going to bring more capital in.
So let's talk about Libra coin. So this is essentially, what's interesting about what Facebook has done is that they have co-opted the nomenclature of crypto, but what they are putting forward is not a cryptocurrency. It's a pretty standard derivative, but it's not a cryptocurrency. It is a centralized derivative of the American dollar. Right? It's basically a token that you can convert back and forth into dollars. There's no guarantee that Libra will get off the ground. Governments are terrified of Libra. This is the first time where the government's ability to issue money is being disintermediated. Think about that, right?
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.
Crypto. It's an alternative financial system that you can actually own a piece of.
Hi, my name is Brian Rose, and I've just wrapped filming of an exclusive episode with my friend Tika Tiwari about a special cryptocurrency investment situation that will not be available on YouTube, social media channels, or even our website. It's called 5 Coins to $5 Million, and I've secured for you, as a London Real viewer, free access to this groundbreaking cryptocurrency event.
I think we're going to see a bigger rally moving forward than we saw in 2017. This asset class will be worth tens of trillions of dollars.
Right now, over 100 billionaires and wealthy investors are in a buying frenzy, preparing for a rare crypto market phenomenon 100% guaranteed to happen. The last time it occurred in 2016, you could have turned $500 into as much as $5 million in as little as 10 months. And we won't see this happen again until 2024. The time to take action is now.
You got a shot here at moving the needle in your financial life in a way that you'll never ever see again.
Tika Tiwari was voted the #1 most trusted expert in cryptocurrency by an independent poll of 130,000 analysts. And he's going to show you the top 5 coins to invest in that again could turn $500 into as much as $5 million. So click on the link below or go to londonreal.tv/crypto to attend this exclusive event where Tika will be giving away his top cryptocurrency coin investment for free. But we only have limited spaces available, so act now to secure your spot, and I will see you at the event.